There's that saying, like, don't compare your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 30. You never really know what chapter people are on. Even if it's a friend of yours, right? You don't know what thoughts they were having, what life challenges they had to overcome in order to get to where they are. Welcome to the Chingona Revolution podcast, where we will bring out your inner badass Latina, overcome self-doubt, help you gain clarity, and pave your own path, all while leading with courage. I am your host, Latina coach and speaker, Erika Cruz. Hello, and welcome back to Chingona Revolution podcast. In this episode, I want to talk to you all about comparison. In today's world, when we live in the era of social media and just instantaneously getting updates about other people's lives, I want to validate how common it is to be triggered by other people's accomplishments and success. And what I want to talk to you all about today is how to overcome that comparison trap. It's easy to compare yourself just because you are human. But if you are an entrepreneur and a content creator and you're spending a lot of time on social media because it's something that you use for marketing or for your business, and you see that other people are landing opportunities that you desire, it can be so triggering. Even if you're not an entrepreneur and a content creator, literally just seeing somebody online who just got engaged when you know that it's something that you desire, or whenever you see that somebody has gotten pregnant if you've been trying to get pregnant, or that somebody took a trip to a destination that you've been wanting to go to. It's really easy to be triggered by these things. And what I want to talk to you in this podcast episode is how to overcome comparison. The first thing I want to say about comparing yourself to somebody else is that you are only getting the part of the story that that person chose to tell. Let's say that somebody got engaged. You don't know how many arguments happened before this engagement, how many difficult conversations, maybe how many therapy sessions, maybe if they broke up, or, we don't get the full picture. We just see what that person has shared. Or whenever somebody is an entrepreneur and they share like a client win, you don't know how many clients maybe said, or how many potential clients said no to them, said no to even working with them. You don't know how much rejection a content creator received before landing a massive opportunity with a brand. We never know the full story. Even when it looks like somebody has had overnight success, rarely is that the case. People look at me and they think, oh, Erika started her business in 2020 and then grew it to multiple six figures within 12 months and then has created $1 million business in 3 years. I'm like, yeah, this business, but in reality, a lot has happened to get here. I had a food blog before this. I was a yoga instructor before this. I'd been trying different things for a very long time and those things didn't work out. This specific business, this pivot, yeah, it had success early on, but it was on the building blocks of everything that I had done before. So that's the first thing that I would like you to just observe. If you have found yourself recently comparing yourself to somebody else's path, to somebody else's success, remember that you don't know their full story. You are only seeing what they choose to show you. And, there's that saying, like, don't compare your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 30. You never really know what chapter people are on. Even if it's a friend of yours, right? You don't know what thoughts they were having, what life challenges they had to overcome in order to get to where they are. So that's the first thing I want to mention. The second thing, I also want to tell you all, side note, there are no notes in front of me right now. So bear with me if we go on little adventures. I may be going on different rants. But the second thing I want to mention is that when we are triggered by somebody else's success, that tells us that we don't feel like it's possible for us, or else we would not be triggered. So typically when we are comparing ourselves to somebody else, it's because they have something that we desire. Notice, and I know I've talked about this before on the podcast, but notice that we're not comparing ourselves to somebody who maybe doesn't have a home, or we're not comparing ourselves to somebody who has a life that we do not desire. Like, I know that I probably want kids one day, but if I saw some lady at the store with 10 kids and like looked like she had no sleep, I would not be comparing myself to that person, right? But maybe I might compare myself to the entrepreneur who's able to manage their business and like have a child. And I mean, I'm not in a rush to have a baby, FYI, but I know that one day it's something that I would want. So I'm mentioning this to point out that we aren't going to compare ourselves to people that are in undesired situations. We are comparing ourselves to people who are in our desired situation. So whenever they have something that we desire. And whenever you feel triggered, it's because you don't believe that it's going to happen for you, or you believe that their success is taking away from yours. So let's say that an acquaintance of yours or maybe a colleague of yours was invited onto a massive podcast, and you are super triggered because you're like, oh my gosh, that person got an invite and I didn't, and you're taking it personally. Well, okay, there's not just going to be one person ever invited to this podcast, right? Like, what if the fact that your acquaintance just got on the podcast makes it easier for then you to get on the podcast because now there's a mutual connection? So as we are looking at comparing ourselves to other people, it's really important to note that the trigger is coming from us believing that we are unworthy of having this. And that's where the work is. The work isn't to control what opportunities or things happen in other people's lives. The work is to identify what triggers are coming up. And I have a podcast episode on comparison from, I think, when I first started the podcast. And one of the things I talk about then, which I think is important to bring up again, is that comparison equals clarity. A lot of times we're looking at comparison as this horrible thing, but if you find yourself comparing yourself to somebody else, that's clarity on what you want. Because I just mentioned that we're not going to compare ourselves to somebody who is living an undesired life. We are going to compare ourselves to people who have things that we desire. And if you're over here looking for clarity, look at comparison. Where are you comparing yourself? And take it for what it is. Take the information from it where, okay, I'm comparing myself to somebody who just wrote a book. Okay, cool. That means I want to write a book. But just because that person wrote a book doesn't mean that I can't write a book. And that's where we let comparison consume us instead of help us. Comparison doesn't have to be a bad thing. But when we get into the comparison trap, where we're just in this cycle of, oh my gosh, well, that we're almost acting like as a victim, like, oh, that person has this and I don't. That's not helpful. It's helpful to look at comparison as, oh my gosh, my friend just became booked out. I love that this person is my friend, that I get to go to this person for help. And I will admit that when I first started my coaching business, and I mean, I have a lot of friends who are coaches, right? And a lot of my friends and I have shared clients. Clients have not just worked with me, but also worked with them, or maybe they started working with them and then they came to work with me. And now I'm at this place where I'm like, my friend just had a 6-figure launch. Hell yeah. Like, yes, I get to be in this person's energy. I'm so excited that this person's my friend. I'm happy for her success. But when I first started, I wasn't there. And when I first started, I was like, oh my gosh, somebody's like working with this friend of mine. So like now they're not going to be my client, or, oh my gosh, I was like possessive about my clients. Like, oh my gosh, my client's now working with this other person. They're going to compare our coaching. When it's like, no, what if I was the coach they needed in the season that they worked with me? And now that they're working with my friend, then that is exactly the season they're in now. Like, how cool that we together get to be coaches who change this person's life. So it took a lot of mindset work to get here, but it's so possible. And now when my friends have success, I am so happy. Even though at the beginning, I didn't have this comprehension yet. I didn't have this awareness. So I'm bringing this up to validate that if you feel triggered when one of your friends or acquaintances or somebody that you follow on social media has a win, don't beat yourself up about it. It's normal, especially in our culture that is so rooted in scarcity. Or at least in the Latino culture, if you actually literally in scarcity is all around us, right? It doesn't matter what culture you come from. I want to make one more point before I give you some tips for not falling into the comparison trap. So the last thing I want to say is that no amount of hating on somebody else's success is going to lead to your success. And I believe I talked about this in the Law of Attraction episode, or maybe on an Instagram live. I talked about it somewhere, but I think it's worth bringing up again. Actually, I have 2 things to say. So one is this. See, I told you this is what happens when I don't have notes, but I'm trying to organize it for you all. The thing I want to say is that no amount of hating on somebody else's success is going to lead to your success. What do I mean by this? I mean, if you're looking at somebody's success, somebody's life, somebody's business, and you are just hating on them, that's not going to bring more success to you. What will bring more success to you is actually celebrating other people's success, which I know is hard to do whenever you're very much in scarcity. But let's say that a person I follow just landed my dream job, right? Like, let's say you're looking for a dream job and they land a dream job that you really want. And you just are like nitpicking at everything they did to get this job and like really hating on them. That is just putting you in the energy of hating, and you are going to attract more hate, right? You're just looking for the negative instead of thinking about it from this perspective of, oh my gosh, this person in my radius just landed this opportunity, this career move that I desire so much. And now I know somebody there that I can leverage and talk and just kind of learn. And even if you don't talk to this person, just observe their steps. Notice that it's the same situation. It's just being looked at in different ways. The other thing I'd like to offer to you about this scenario is that the abundance you see in other people is always available to you as well. I'm going to say that again. The abundance you see in other people is always available to you as well. The fact that you're listening to this podcast episode, the fact that you are in my radius, the fact that you've seen me create this podcast, that you've seen me land, well, if you follow me on Instagram, I do a lot of brand deals. I just finished a brand deal with QuickBooks. I am working on another one with a few different companies. I've worked with Burt's Bees at this time. I've worked with Harvard. I mean, I've worked with McDonald's. I've worked with so many different brands. So the fact that you see that in my life means it's available for you too. Anything you can see in your mind, you can create in real life. You really can. And this is, I know this can feel like really woo-woo to some people, but all creation begins in your mind. All creation begins in your imagination. And before I give you the solution to falling into the comparison trap, I have one other story that I want to share with you. And I've shared this story, I think, when I first did the podcast episode about how to overcome comparison, right when I had started the podcast. But it's such a good story that I'm going to retell it. So this story is about our two dogs, Noah and Paloma. And our dogs are Mexican AF. When they see the tortilla press come out, they are ready to sit, do a little dance, anything they need to do to ensure that they land a homemade tortilla. They love tortillas. And one dog, Noah, who was our older family dog, has since transitioned. When I first told the story, we still had Noah with us in the family. And he is in doggy heaven. I think I'm going to cry. And he, my mom always said that he was the man of the house because he was the only man who lived in our house. And he's now transitioned. So now there's 4 women in the house. There's Paloma, who's our dog, then my cat, who's also female, myself. Well, I'm only there part-time because obviously I travel a lot. And then there's my mom. So I would make tortillas for Noah and Paloma. And a couple of times I gave Noah his first because he is older. He was older and he would take a lot longer to finish his. So I'd give him his first and then I'd give it to Paloma because Paloma just inhales it and just, tries to eat it super fast and then tries to steal it from Noah, or tried. And I remember I had just finished making tortillas, and this happened a few times. And the last time this happened, I had this realization of the point that I'm making in this story. So I'm making the tortilla, I press it, put it on the comal, I flip it. It started to, get inflate, and that's how you know that it's good. And then we'd put a little bit of cheese from Mexico inside, and then I would make it into a little taco, but I would wait for it to cool down. And the dogs are super excited about eating the tortillas. Noah would bark because he was just so excited about to eat a tortilla. And then I handed Noah his little taco, and he ran off, and I was going to hand Paloma her little taco. But Paloma had already ran off after Noah. So Noah grabbed his little taco and he ran off. Remember, Noah's the older dog that didn't have that many teeth and would eat a lot slower. So that's why he got his first. And then instead of Paloma waiting for hers, she ran after his. And this is what happens when we get stuck in the comparison trap. We're so busy looking at other people's blessings, other people's success, other people's opportunities, other people's significant other people's job promotions, that we're missing ours. I had Paloma's taco in my hand, but she ran off after Noah's. And this is what we look like when we are in the comparison trap. We're so busy chasing other people's accomplishments that we're missing our own. We're missing the ones that are right in front of us. And the universe is like, hello, I just needed you to wait a little bit, pero aquí está, like, here's yours. Here's the one that's for you. And I love this story so much because it's a visual representation of what we do when we get stuck in the comparison trap. We're so busy looking at other people's energy, so busy looking at what they're doing and chasing them to see how we can get it ourselves, instead of like acknowledging that somebody got something and saying, oh, look at that. Like, let's say that we're in Paloma's shoes, the way that she could have reacted. Obviously, these are dogs, right? But it's just a good visual representation. But if Paloma would have looked at Noah's taco and been like, oh, dope, we're getting tacos, right? And like looked back over at me, she would have seen that I had the taco for her. But she was so fixated on Noah's taco that she chased his and was no longer being magnetic to receive hers. She was no longer in the place to receive. And that's what happens when we get stuck in the comparison trap. So with that being said, let's talk about how to overcome the comparison trap. You're going to get so tired of me talking about being magnetic. I was going to say it's being magnetic, but you know what? We're going to go even deeper, because what does it mean to be magnetic? It means to be abundant. The way to overcome the comparison trap is to lean into abundance, to know, to believe, to understand that there are an abundance of opportunities in this world. That one person's success doesn't mean that you get less success. And the interesting thing about abundance is that it all starts in our head. It all starts with our mindset. We could focus on the unemployment rate, or we can focus on the hundreds and thousands of jobs that are posted on LinkedIn. We could focus on not having clients, or we can focus on the clients that we are calling in and how it is that we are going to transform their lives. We could focus on how we're not growing follower count, or we can focus on the followers we already have and serve them. The thing about abundance is that it's all around us. Whenever you feel stuck in scarcity, how can you take a pause and literally just look around? Right now, from my point of view, I see an abundance of trees. These trees have an abundance of leaves. It would be impossible for me to go and count all of these leaves, even just from one tree. And I know that this is nature, right? But nature is a teacher for us. And as I'm looking at all of these trees, I'm like, this is evidence that there is abundance. There are 7 billion people in the world, right? So if you're over here fixated on one like toxic partner, remember that there are 7 billion people in the world. And just like there are an abundance of leaves and an abundance of people, there's also an abundance of opportunities for you and for me. And the opportunities I take don't take away from the opportunities you take. And the thing is that these opportunities, these people, these leaves, like this abundance is always there. It's always existing. It's up to us whether we want to see it or not. It's up to us what we focus on. So when you find yourself comparing yourself to somebody else, ask yourself, do I know the full story? The answer is always going to be no. The next question you should ask yourself is, what is this teaching me? What is the thing that I desire from this that I maybe didn't know before? Somebody just landed a speaking engagement. I found myself comparing myself. Cool. Looks like I want to do some speaking. And then 3, I want you to ask yourself, just because this person landed this opportunity or got this thing I desire, does that take away from me also being able to get it? The answer is always going to be no. And the biggest thing I want you to know is that you are the source of your own abundance. A lot of us believe that, oh, my job is responsible for my abundance, or my partner is responsible for my abundance, or my generational trauma, right? But you are responsible for your abundance. If you get laid off, you could go find another job. If somebody breaks up with you, you can go find a different relationship. It was never the boss, it was never the job that gave you abundance, that gave you resources. You were always the one that created them. So abundance lives within you. I know we're getting pretty deep here, but as we think about comparison, at the root, comparison is scarcity. And the interesting thing is that when we and when everybody in the world is living in authenticity, then we don't actually all desire the same stuff. I mean, yeah, we're all chasing the same goals because we've been told that we should, but not everybody wants to be a millionaire. Some people want to go live on farmland. Like, we all have different interests. And if we allow ourselves to fully follow what it is that we want, scarcity wouldn't even really be a thing, because we're all different with what we desire. Not everybody wants to get married and have kids. Not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody wants to speak on stages. And it's okay for you to, have and desire whatever it is that you want. But when you lean into an abundant mindset, everything changes. Rejection doesn't feel personal anymore. Comparison just becomes clarity. It doesn't become anything else. This is why inside of Magnetic Mastermind, we are doing a 30-day abundance challenge where we are tapping into an abundant mindset to manifest the life and the business that we want. This is something I did on my own when I was first starting my business. And it gave me so much clarity on what it was that I wanted. And it allowed me to stay open to possibilities, open to opportunities, things that I could have never even imagined began to happen. If you want to stop chasing and start attracting, then listen up. My program, Magnetic Mastermind, is now open. Magnetic Mastermind is a spiritual business mastermind for women entrepreneurs and creators, or aspiring entrepreneurs and creators. And inside the mastermind, you are going to double your opportunities without pitching yourself. How? By mastering your mindset and learning magnetic marketing. Magnetic Mastermind is for you if you are a spiritually curious entrepreneur or creator, if you've been sliding into potential clients' DMs or maybe emailing people and you feel salesy and you don't like it. You've already gotten started, but you're ready to grow. You're really ready to become magnetic, and you stand for something bigger than yourself. Lastly, you've always known that you were meant to land amazing opportunities or be booked out, but you're not sure how to get there. Trust me, friends, I used to be in your shoes. In 2019, I was running a food blog. I was pitching myself left and right, never really made a dollar until 2020, when I learned about the power of my mindset, specifically law of attraction, which is something that I teach in Magnetic Mastermind. I also started to create content on TikTok. And since then, I've brought in so many amazing opportunities. I quit my 6-figure tech job, and within 12 months, I grew my business to multiple 6 figures. Within 3 years, my business reached $1 million in sales. I've been on the front page of the New York Times. I've been on live TV a bunch of times. I've worked with so many amazing brands, and it was all because I learned to be magnetic. And now I'm taking everything that I've learned and I'm teaching you how to double your opportunities without pitching yourself. This mastermind has a 2-day in-person event in Santa Monica, California. It's already included in the price. You get live weekly coaching calls. You also get content reviews. I'm going to review your content. You're going to get monthly trainings, and the doors are open for a limited time. Schedule your consult call if you feel like this is something that you want to do. If you intuitively feel a pull, if you're really interested, schedule a call with me. It is a no commitment call. We'll get on a one-on-one call to see if this is a good fit for you. If it is, I'll tell you how I can help you and what we're going to work on. If it's not a good fit, I'll be totally honest with you. The doors are open from April 16th until April 30th. I do not want you to miss this, okay? The doors close on April 30th. Schedule your consult call today. I cannot wait to talk to you. I can't wait to help you go from chasing to attracting and becoming the most magnetic freaking version of yourself. I can't wait to talk to you. I was invited on Amy Landino's podcast for Detail Therapy, and she was somebody I followed on YouTube. I'm not sure if you all follow her, but I was like a huge fan of hers. And she got on TikTok, and I sent her a message on TikTok. I was like, oh, welcome to TikTok. I love your YouTube. And she's like, oh my gosh, do you want to come on my podcast and talk about TikTok? I was blown away Because, and I know this sounds like nothing now compared to everything I've done, but imagine I was still working a tech job. I didn't even know what my business was. And I have just landed a podcast interview on a podcast that I have listened to for years from a person that, imagine like landing, I don't know, maybe this is how you feel about Chingo and I Revolution. Imagine sending me a DM and I'm like, oh my gosh, do you want to come on the podcast and talk about it? And it was just, it blew me away. And I was doing this abundance challenge on my own where I was visualizing my life. I was tapping into abundance. And this is what we're doing as a group inside of Magnetic Mastermind, because it really starts with your mindset. When you are leaning into abundance, everything else is easier. Your strategy becomes easier. Action taking becomes easier. Overcoming adversity becomes easier. Everything becomes easier. You're going to go through hard times. We all are. But it's what you do with those hard times that matter. If you are listening to this on the date of the release, today is the last day to schedule a call for the mastermind. This is the first and possibly the only time that we are hosting an in-person event in Santa Monica, California. I just booked the venue and it is amazing. I am so excited to host the mastermind group. You also get to meet just a majority of my clients because we have the Courage Driven Latina event that same weekend on the day before, and you get a free ticket for that as well. And there's so much power in meeting people in person and having in-person events. When I first attended my in-person event, that's where I came up with the idea to start a coaching business, especially a coaching business focused on women. And I'm still friends with some of the people that I met at this event. In person is magical. It really is. And then after that, we get to work together for 6 months. So if you've been wanting to work with me, this is a great opportunity to join the mastermind. You get to work with me for 6 months. We get a 2-day live event. It's going to be epic. We're going to do the abundance challenge. We're also going to talk about magnetic marketing. I'm going to teach you my framework for content. I'm also even going to do content reviews. So you get to submit your content to me. I give you feedback on it, and then you can post it. We're going to help you come up with your overall marketing strategy to ensure it's not hustly, to ensure it's not chasey, and to ensure that it is abundant and magnetic. And you are going to double your opportunities inside of the mastermind without pitching yourself. If you have an intuitive pull, if you're drawn to this, schedule your call. Today is the last day to schedule a call. If you're listening to this after the fact, you can visit the website it's the Erika Cruz, that's Erika with a K.com. And then there is a section called Work With Me. You should see a mastermind page on there. You can join the waitlist if you're listening to this after the fact. But if you are listening to this on the day of its release or the day after, schedule a call. Do not wait. There's a lot of power in joining this round of the mastermind. And one of them is we have the live event. The second part is we have dropped the price from almost $8,000 to $5,555. And I'm not sure if we're going to do this again. So this is your chance to get in and work together. So I'm shuffling cards over here because I figured that I can do a little card pull. This is something that I'm introducing in the mastermind. I'm actually taking a class on tarot cards. And I figured I could do a card pull. So go ahead and pick pile A or pile B, and then I'm going to give you a little reading. Let me just shuffle over here. Okay, so in your mind, pick. Do I want pile A or pile B? Pile A or pile B? Don't overthink it. If you need time, go ahead and pause. Okay, if you chose pile A, I actually ended up pulling 4 cards. You've got the Hermit card in reverse, the 3 of Cups, and the Cups represents emotions. You've got the Fool card as well as the Daughter of Cups. So this is telling me maybe you've been seeking or having a lot of alone time, isolation time. Maybe you've been feeling a little bit lonely, and this could be lonely in your healing journey or in your growth journey. Maybe you're physically around other people, but maybe emotionally or intellectually, you're feeling a little bit alone. You're feeling a little bit isolated. Maybe you've outgrown your friends. Maybe you've outgrown family members. Maybe certain relationships are no longer meeting your expectations or stimulating you the way that they once did because you are going through changes. So the Hermit in reverse is telling me, yeah, just like some loneliness, like isolation. Again, it doesn't mean physical. It could mean physical, but it could also just be emotional. And then there's also the Three of Cups in reverse. So if this was straight up, then I would say it'd be about collaboration. But because it's reversed, I think you are just going through this time of being alone to initiate a new phase. And with the Fool card is the first card of the major arcanas, and it's the beginning of the journey of the cards. So this is telling me there's like innocence, like maybe you're a beginner at something, you're starting something new, and you're ready to kind of like take the leap. There's a little bit of naiveness here, but it's not naiveness in a bad way, right? Like when I first started my business, I was super naive for what I would like. I didn't know what the coaching world was, but sometimes we need that in order to take the leap. And perhaps this time alone is now preparing you to start something new. And then the last card you got for pile A is the Daughter of Cups. And I am using the Wild Unknown Pocket Tarot deck. Okay, creative and emotional. So maybe you are in the middle of creating something new, or maybe pivoting in your life, or pivoting in your business, or pivoting in your career. So what this is suggesting is to try your best to stay grounded. You are a creative person and you're meant to tap into creativity, but being grounded is going to definitely help you. Yeah, just tap into your creativity, stay grounded, and allow yourself to jump into this next thing, even if you don't know the full picture. That's what I'm getting from the Fool card. All right, if you chose pile B, you got the Nine of Swords. So maybe you are going through a shadow period, or you are maybe seeing parts of yourself that you don't really like. Maybe it's hard to sleep at night. Maybe you've been having nightmares, or maybe you have been feeling guilty about something, or maybe even a little bit of anxiety or depression. And I want to remind you that through the shadows is how we grow. Through the shadows is how we learn. We don't learn when everything's working great. But even though there's a lot of mental clutter right now, or you've gone through mental clutter, it's going to get better because you also got the Justice card. And the Justice card is having you think about what decision you want to make next, because you have a choice. You have a choice with how you look at your situation. Like, to use the podcast episode as an example, are you leaning into scarcity, or are you ready to tap into abundance? Because abundance is always there. It's always available. Are you tapping into it? A lot of swords here. So what this is telling me, the swords is for like thoughts, and it represents kind of the air signs, which I'm an air sign. And the third card you got is the Ace of Swords. And this one is all about mental clarity. So while the Nine of Swords was all about like not clarity, you then get to make a decision through the Judgment card. And then you get to use your best judgment with how you want to think about this, how you want to feel about it. And then the Ace of Swords. Ace is always kind of a new beginning. And there is almost like the truth is going to come to light. You're going to have a lot more clarity. And then the last card you got is the Judgment card in reverse. So with the Judgment card in reverse, this is telling me that you are allowing fear and self-doubt to hold you back from making decisions that are necessary for you to move forward. And you really are in the place to take action right now with this Ace of Swords card. Even if you don't have all of the information, you're stuck in indecision because you want to have all of the pieces, but you're never going to have all of the information. At some point, you really just have to make a decision and trust yourself, because in the end, everything's going to work out. Even if you make the quote unquote wrong decision, it's going to lead you to a lot more clarity than if you don't make a decision. So allow yourself to make the choices, even if you don't have all of the information right now. All right. Hopefully those readings resonated, and I will see you all in the next episode. Do not forget to schedule your call. I can't wait to speak with you about Magnetic Mastermind, and I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Make sure to visit theerikacruz.com. That's Erika with a K, where you can subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode. You can help this podcast grow by supporting me with an Apple Podcast rate and review. If you took anything away from this episode, I invite you to take a screenshot and share it on social media so that your favorite badass Latinas can also check it out. Be sure to tag me at the Erika Cruz. That's Erika with a K because you know I want to see it. If you're ready to join the revolution and be a part of the Courage Driven Latina community, visit couragedrivenlatina.com to get more information and join the waitlist. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.